Hello everybody and welcome back. I have an account for you today from Ireland, from County Armagh, and I've been chatting with the witness over the last couple of days, and I was very grateful it allowed me to share it here with you. And this is what he had to say. I would like to report an experience that happened to me last month. I was unsure about coming forward, and to be honest, I still am. I was in Bracar, which borders a road and is near human habitation in County Armagh. I was out, as I like to walk, and I was exploring an old stomping ground of many years from my youth. Back then, the area was different, as this area is now a nature reserve and is used by dog walkers now on a loop walk trail. You can leave the trails and pass, but I doubt anybody does. There are 7 peat rompers, and I walked 3 or 4 of them that day, at least, so I'd been out for quite some time. As I walked the loop that was farthest from the road, I was walking close to the edge of an adjoining field, and when I passed a certain spot, I heard an unusual cry of an animal. It wasn't something I could identify, but it sounded in distress. I walked very quietly, by the way, so I don't think I made any noise on approaching that area or spooked anything. I stood and watched and listened to see if I could see where this sound was coming from or its source. I could pinpoint the area, but not what was making the noise. I kept looking around trying to see what it was, but I couldn't identify anything. And as I walked on my way, I was still looking. I did notice a lot of trees and they had been drilled and a PVC capsule inserted. This I presume, I now have Pepper, my cat, walking on my laptop. Shh, mind. Oh, I did notice a lot of trees and they had been drilled and a PVC capsule inserted. This, I presume, was to kill the tree and roots. Why, I don't know, but I dug one out with my knife and examined it. These capsules were in a lot of the trees around me as I passed by. There were trees with capsules everywhere. Anyway, I walked up a long straight part of the walk and without warning, instinct told me I was being watched. I wasn't scared. I was at ease, but I knew something was watching me walk by. I turned around, I looked back down the trail, and I saw a large black figure just standing there watching me. Back at where I'd stopped at a junction on the path to listen to the animal in distress. But I couldn't see that animal. I looked and the figure just stood still and was just watching me. This was not a dog walker, and my car was the only one in the car park when I left, and no one followed me that I do know. The figure was jet black and 6 to 7 feet tall. It didn't do anything, it just stood watching me up the trail. I looked at him and he just looked back, as if nothing happened. And I was not a close threat, so I decided to just put some space between me and the figure in the trees, and I moved off. I went off track, exploring, and as I broke through vegetation and areas not walked before, I saw some strange flat areas where something large had bedded down or sat. Strangely, I was not afraid, but more inquisitive. I did keep checking behind me, but I didn't see anything else. I have seen a few areas where a large animal bedded down like a deer, up and around the mountains, but these were much larger than the deer beds. At this point, I should say, there's no large animals wander here that I know of, and there are no deer. I'm telling you, it happened a few weeks ago. I will post a few pics here from along my route. It wasn't an easy place to navigate, and I would have gotten lost where I was in the trees, ferns, brambles and peat bogs, only for my GPS when I went off track. The arrow cursor that you see on the photograph is where the black figure stood, and I was at the top right, looking back down the tree line. Whilst chatting with the witness, I asked him how he felt that day, before and after seeing the figure. And he said, "You asked me how I felt that day. Well, I was walking alone, as I've done for years, and I enjoy the quiet and natural sounds of nature. Not to sound corny, but I was at one with nature that day, and in a very content and happy state of mind. Happy to see my boyhood surroundings, yet a happiness tinged with sadness also to see the trees drilled with poison. At the same time, I felt concerned for the area and the current environment in which I walked. Seeing the trees damaged and knowing there are lots of changes I could do nothing about. I was feeling lots of emotions, to be honest, and after listening to the animal sound and seeing the PVC capsules, I moved on, and that's when I felt I was being watched. I was not alarmed or frightened, it was just a state of wonder, really, as I thought, why was I being watched and by what? Whatever he was calm. He was just standing looking up the long peat track. I just thought, if my time's up, it's up, as there would be no match for the large figure I had seen. It wasn't a human or a dog walker or anything like that. The figure stood out as large and broad and dark in colour. I hope this gives a better insight to my thoughts and feelings on the day. Well, would it be wrong to say that two minds were walking the nature reserve that day? Two minds, worlds apart, with perhaps the same thoughts milling around through them? A place enjoyed in youth for its beauty and its bounty, revisited in maturity, only to find so many changes, some good, some bad, but changes all the same. Sadly, only one has the option of getting in the car and returning to the life he chose for himself. The other? Well, who knows? Until next time, thank you very much. Goodbye.